Hi there, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds community, the case and the ongoing mess in the background regarding Bob Farrell, whether it be the real Bob Farrell account or a fake one impersonating Bob to make him look bad. We're going to be adding on today because, as I said from last night's video, if there are any more updates or added points to be made for or against, that's what I will do so to try and get that balance. And that's what we're looking at today, because it seems like things have shifted since. People, some out there, would have already had it in their mindset as to who is responsible, fair enough, or as to who people think is responsible. Some people claim that they know, others are just suggesting, such as Watcher of Crazy. And there's a range of different names that can be scattered about. It seemed to have caught Jim Terry's attention as well. I don't know if that's just simply because people in the chat last night were calling him out and accusing Jim Terry being responsible for creating the fake Bob Farrell account, or if Jim Terry just so happened to come across my video. Seems like my coverage has been a catalyst once again in terms of spreading some kind of awareness, positive or negative reasons, starting new discussions, and maybe with time and answer coming out of it, some kind of conclusion, right? So it does seem evident once again that at times with certain events, with my presence and my coverage, it can then lead to new discussions. Kind of like with the Kenny Veach case, how when I return back to that and then suddenly it seems to inspire other people, which could be considered a positive. Now, as I said, the video that I did last night, it was a place to just share from the point of view of Justin Rounds. Today, let's look at from the point of view of the general public, audience members from different communities out there, maybe more so Bob Farrell's, as well as checking out Bob Farrell's response to and the comments from last night. There's a range of stuff to get through, but we'll get there. Just make sure to stick around from start to finish to fully understand this. That would be appreciated. So before we go any further, just a brief little shout out. Shout out to WarLike Wrath for the 5 gifted memberships. You're welcome. Me? Oh yeah, WarLike Wrath. Sometimes I forget. I'm only kidding. So I'll try and gift out more memberships in the future. I don't want to do it too close to one another, just spread it out a bit. I want to try and do it for a bit of the Dylan Rounds community in case, true crime community, and then the Kenny Veach one, 2 different ones, right? As I said, gifted memberships are done at random, unfortunately, but there's no harm in giving back to the community here and also over there with Kenny Veach and just spread it out evenly. So yeah, what we need to look at first, I guess, would be just my thoughts on the matter from last night. I might be able to give more of a conclusion towards the end of this video as well regarding the situation of a supposed fake Bob Farrell account, okay? So, as for last night, the video that I did, I had a feeling that it could go wrong in terms of how people view it. It seems like Bob Farrell was a little bit jumpy at the start, even before the video was aired as a live premiere, because he typed in his caps letters, as you would expect. We'll have a read of that shortly. But in terms of the audience, not as much resistance there. More people having a go or redirecting it towards Jim Terry, saying, oh, it's the ongoing stuff in the background. It's just more trouble, more drama, more mess, etc., etc. So just in one way, at least speaking, it's good that, I guess, most people understood the video from last night. It was looking at it from the point of view of Justin Rounds, what Justin Rounds received, those screenshots passed on from a supposed friend of Dylan Rounds in the past, and as well, just seeing Justin Rounds' personal outlook and view of Bob Farrell, even if it's false negative impressions, right? It's like, if Bob somehow communicated with Justin right now, face to face or for a phone call, if that ever did happen, well, it's not going to go too well, is it? Even if Bob Farrell being innocent in a moment or a certain situation, let's just say, Justin probably isn't going to give him the time of day to talk or say anything, because first time impressions likely were negative. as Justin has said, the contact he's had with a Bob Farrell account for over 2 years, it's just been constant harassment, right? So it seems like there's been a long-term goal. So if you're basing it, from the audience perception, not everyone's, but, a range from last night, it's somebody else out there having a go at Bob, impersonating him, making him look bad. It seems like a long-term goal then to keep up a fake account for over 2 years. Over 2 years of harassment towards some of the family members of the Dylan Rounds case. That's quite some dedication, quite a long-term grudge, right? I say that because when there's been fake accounts of other people, it's had a shelf lifespan. Eventually, it's ended up dying out, stopping, account being deleted, or being changed up under a different username. It lasts for a certain length of time, then the next victim is selected, and it moves on and on and on. It was like a cycle, right? Cycling through different characters of who to impersonate next. Oh, now it's that person's turn. Do it for a month or two, move on to the next. But in this case with Bob, if a fake account has been created about him to make it look like him, and from what Bob has been claiming, it's not just one fake account, but multiple, maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe. Well, whoever's doing it does seem like a long-term plan in their mindset, right? For it to last that long. People watching right now, do you think that's normal? Do you think there's a greater reason or motive behind it if it is a fake account? Because why would someone or some people impersonate Bob significantly longer than all the other characters within the case? Obviously, there must be a deeper hatred or a deeper misunderstanding or a deeper reason as to why it's been, followed up for this long, for over 2 years. Now, it's Justin Rounds that's saying it's lasted for over 2 years. Is that 100% true? Is there enough proof to suggest that? Not at this moment in time. But as I said, considering that the Dylan Rounds community seems to obey and bow down to Justin Rounds, what are people's thoughts now? Have they changed? Do they still believe in Justin? Do they excuse his recent actions and behaviour, right? Because, not trying to sound too negative, like, if bad things have happened to you, your family or whatever, right, caught up in a bad situation, bad time, such as this, missing person, the son going missing and presumed dead, murdered, right? It's tough to deal with. You're not going to react accordingly. But is there a certain time scale of how much that excuse lasts? Well, not excuse, how much it could be played as an excuse card for indirect, unnecessary action and responses, right? Let me just put this in perspective so no one misunderstands. In the early days when Justin Rounds was calling out Don Hatley, right? Saying to Don Hatley, you dead man walking, if I've got to spill the guts to get the truth out, I'll come on down and visit you. That was one of them. That was a bit more recent. Post before that, way back at the start, meet me at the main line, Don Hatley, and bring your gay son and family too, Was it considered a bit irrational or a bit uncontrolled at the time? I'm just trying to choose the words carefully here. I think most people back then understood. There's a bit of context behind it. Supposedly, at the time, Don Hatley being involved still could be till this day in some way or another. That Justin Rounds is hurt by the case. His son's gone missing and presumed dead. That's going to be hard to take as well. And, Justin Rounds' position he's in right then, when it's fresh, when it's all happening in front of him, it's going to impact you a lot in the early stages. Does it still have the same impact down the line? I'm sure it does. That lasting effect until maybe there's some kind of closure or some kind of justice, right? But really early on, when emotions are very fresh and high, It can be hard to deal with. And if you are in the presence, or you may have some form of knowledge or sense that there is somebody out there who could be responsible or may have answers, but they're ducking and weaving, maybe avoiding contact with Justin or moving away, which could be considered as a little bit suspicious depending on the timing of it all. Justin, I think general public believe that Justin had every right to call out Don Hatley at the time, and that it was understandable as to why Justin was angry and annoyed, because he holds it within him, builds and builds, and then he lets it out, and it can be a bit explosive. But as well, with Don Hatley being tied supposedly to the case and Dylan Rounds, people thought it was justified for Justin's response. Now, there's a few people here and there, and I just briefly touched upon it as well in my thoughts, was, yes, it's understandable how Justin feels and what he's doing at the time, but is it the best way to go about things by calling somebody out in that way? Could it be seen as threatening language? Could it harm the case? You know, if this is tied with the case and Don Hatley is too with Dylan Rounds, you know, do you want to jeopardize anything? Could it harm it? Candice Cooley seemed to have the same idea, because right at the time of when it was happening, Candice Cooley supposedly messaged Justin and said, you need to calm it down a little bit because, you know, Don could be a witness. Now, this was way back at the start or so, early days, might have changed since, the outlook on Don Hatley. But at the time, if you do feel or have a sense that a person could be involved in the case as a suspect, witness, person of interest, what's the worst thing you could possibly do? Threaten the person, scare them off. Somehow it could, you know, if you said other things or forced the truth out of someone, a confession, does it harm the case? Could it cause just trouble in general? Could you be throwing away a key opportunity at finding your son or getting an answer, finding a new lead, someone who's responsible? Maybe, right? So at the time, the conclusion was, when Justin Rounds bottled it up, or as some people could suggest, held it within, was quite reserved most of the time and did well, you know, with his words, expressing himself, especially during interviews, short but, you know, meaningful. But then there's occasions where something may have frustrated him, whether it be a certain date or an event coming around or behaviour by others out there, and Justin, you know, gives a piece of his mind to that individual. If that individual is tied within a case, I don't know, maybe you need to be careful just in case, okay? Maybe you should be allowed to say what you think and, you know, try and get some form of justice, but if it harms the case legally, if it leads to no justice for Dylan, or it doesn't lead to the true closure which it should deserve, is it worth pushing the boundaries, risking it? Is it worth it? So that was really the conclusion. It's understandable how Justin Rounds feels or felt at the time with everything going on, but you just need to try and control yourself. Now, I'm not saying it in the position I'm in, you need to control yourself, but just like what the general theme would be, just across any case, anyone out there. Yes, the situation is bad, it's not good, it's negative. That the hardest thing to do at the time is to try and control yourself, but for the sake of saving the case, you might have to. Just like how, even though it didn't happen, across all boards it can apply. Sometimes you might have to work with the enemy. You might have to reach out to the enemy and try and, I don't know, negotiate, get an answer, right? Kind of like with the James Brenner situation, where he supposedly was willing to open up, but the family weren't having any of it and turned it down, or had the attitude and mentality of, if it ever was formally done, they would turn it down because they have their own plans and they think they are capable of finding Dylan. But in other situations, making a deal with the devil, as bad and uncomfortable as it is, short term, it might be necessary, so you get a quicker result in, you know, finding Dylan, okay, or finding a missing person out there who you know of or close to. It's hard to do, but once again, it could be effective. And it didn't happen in this case, this situation, but there is a chance of it. Now, referring all the way back to right now, right? What, over 2 years into the Dylan Rounds case or something? Are emotions and feelings still tense? Is it still hurtful? Is Justin Rounds still in pain till this day? I think people out there will say, well, duh, yeah. Has it changed much from the first week of what happened to years on to now? Was it the same exact feeling? I mean, Justin and Kenneth Cooley have described in their own ways that things have changed with time. They've become a bit hardened to some of the behaviour online and some of the accounts. And Justin Rounds saying he's been, callous, or formed a callous, like a hard shell, a hard exterior when facing these weird accounts and harassment online, such as with the Bob Farrell situation of recent time, right? So maybe with building that shell and being put through it over time, you might become a bit more resilient to it. But for Justin Rounds to call out Bob Farrell recently, it just feels like there must be a catalyst behind it to cause Justin to now say it now. Because even if those text conversations are old and from back then, I don't know if some people were saying it happened in September last year. I can't remember. It might have been in the chat somewhere if anyone saw it. But even if those comments, right, this Bob Farrell account reaching out to this younger individual, considered a kid by Justin Rounds, but others are saying that he's not a kid, he's an adult, right? I mean, okay, when we looked at the text conversation, the person said, oh, I'm working at the moment, or something like that. I'm working. And then the Bob Farrell account said, well, let me know when you get free time. Is it in the evening? Would that instantly mean that the person that's working is an adult? I don't think so, because, what type of work is it? Full-time, part-time? Here and there you might get a 15 or 16-year-old working or doing some kind of job, or I don't know what age with pocket money, but you might get people under the age of 18 working. And then of course, when you do have other countries out there, maybe third world countries, people even younger working at a certain age, but different situations with the US. I'm not quite sure exactly how it's there formally, but you probably could still have someone under the age of 18 doing some kind of job, having some kind of job, or a part-time one. Maybe that's the situation for that friend of Dylan. Take in mind, the word kid could be slang, might be used more commonly by people of a certain age, bit older or more older, where when they look down, not literally, at a person in the 20s or early 20s to be considered a kid, right? I do remember there was a time on YouTube, I think it might have been the Kenny Veach case and community. I left a comment somewhere and then some female responded saying, oh, just look at that little kid over there, or something like that. I don't know if it was like someone showing resistance or if it was a light-hearted situation. I can't remember, but I do remember a female called me a young kid or child or something. What age was I at the time? I would have been 20, because that's when I started Kenny Veach. 20 or 21 years old, but I wouldn't literally be called a kid because I'm over the age of 18. So with the Dylan, so basically, if I can be called a kid, an age I am, at the time 20, now 23, if the friend of Dylan Rounds, same age or so, or just over 18, then I guess he could be considered called a kid too, but in an informal way with the usage of slang. And I think that person that called me a kid was from America. So maybe people from the US of a certain age will use certain wording when describing people younger than them. They may not be a kid, but to them they are because of the age difference, maybe. So would you say with Justin Rounds' response to the Bob Farrell account, fake or real, was it justified? Probably not, okay? And I know I mentioned that in the previous video, but there's no harm in highlighting it once again. Apologies if it is taking some time here. I just want to give you my backstory and additional thoughts to the matter, okay? And if we need to go on further later with the analysis of the comments by the Bob Farrell account, and I'll let you know my thoughts, but just feel free to stick around. And if I didn't say earlier, Welcome to those that are currently hearing this live premiere. Be sure to share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions if you want to. And if you want to elaborate or have questions, list them down below in the comment section, because I will be acknowledging the previous comments from last night's video to answer any questions and see what the majority think as to who's responsible behind the fake account of Bob. Okay? In addition, if you are interested in last night's video for further context, for screenshots and, just general analysis, feel free to catch up on it when you get time. Top right corner of the screen, click on that eye symbol, drop down box, and it will provide you the video link so you can catch up with my recent video. And even a playlist to the Dylan Rounds case if you're interested in learning about that and seeing it from different perspectives, outside of the box thinking, and the latest updates provided that are present, publicly viewable. Okay, so linking back to Justin Round's initial response. Okay, Justin Rounds may visualize that friend of Dylan as a kid, but not literally as a kid. Yet Justin Rounds uses the child molester. That, you know what, I'll be a good individual, I'll try and censor some words, but you remember inappropriate behavior towards a younger individual, that type of stuff. I mean, I said it in the last video, but I do understand YouTube can be a bit, what would you call it, infrequent, not exactly consistent with what's allowed to say and what isn't. But we most of us all know by now what Justin Rounds labelled Bob Farrell as. Now, would Justin say the same thing face-to-face with Bob Farrell? As of nowadays, if it ever was a face-to-face situation, then yeah, I can imagine Justin would and stick to it if it was face-to-face. Justin Round's first-time impressions of Bob Farrell may be false, incorrect, and a misunderstanding if the interaction Justin had with Bob in the first place wasn't the real Bob. There would be a major misunderstanding there, and that the person behind it all, constructing it, was successful, because look at the mess it's led to, right? So the situation Bob Farrell is in now, right, even if he is innocent, if he is innocent, what can he really do? He can't reach out to the family because they'll reject him. He may not be able to reach out to the odd friend out there because they'll probably say, no, I don't feel comfortable. I've seen the other contacts and stuff and messages. I'm going to avoid you. You can get in a sticky situation of where you're a bit lost. Where do you go? Does it lead to Bob getting in any trouble right now? I don't know, right? It depends what happens next and if there are any more fake accounts out there and what they do next, right? So you could argue from a certain perspective it's out of Bob Farrell's control. He can't do much about it. Will it stop? Who knows? What will happen next? Who knows? Will anyone else be targeted next? You never know. We've seen it on cycle from person to person. Could be anyone next. But with Justin Round's response, just like how he called out Don Hatley in the past and gave him a piece of his mind, back then it was justified. Is it justified right now? At least from the poll, what I did last night, it was mixed. Less people voted that it was the wrong thing to do. More people voted saying it's not disappointing, or they're not quite sure about the situation. So basically, if you add together the neutral people, or the confused ones, I don't really know, and the ones that are not disappointed, basically the majority of people that voted on the poll last night are somewhat okay and neutral with Justin Rounds labelling Bob Farrell as a nut job and a child molester, right? So does Justin Rounds have proof that Bob Farrell meets that label and that description? Not really. So could you call it slander? You could. The only reason why this is an interesting situation and why it's messy too is because this isn't just a random person online labeling another person for doing something, for being a certain way, without any evidence, in a slanderous tone. This is a person directly within the case, one of the parents. So does it create issues long term? when people see Justin Rounds labelling Bob Farrell, who is supposedly innocent in the matter, do people's viewpoints and perceptions change, right? There's no harm in asking the question, right? I would say, with the current situations and whatever's going on in the background, yes, feelings, thoughts, emotions, and with what's going on within the case and Justin Rounds being impacted by it because it's still ongoing, was it the right move to respond back to Bob Farrell, the supposed account, in that way? Probably not, because it just seems a little bit reckless. I'm not going to turn into some do-gooder. I'm not going to go on and say, oh, these lines are really offensive, wah, and throw toys out the pram. No. I'm doing it on the basis of Justin Rounds 2 with like what was said back then, to protect the case, to protect the Dylan Rounds case, and maybe even to protect one's self, so you don't get yourself caught up in trouble when it's unnecessary, when it's not needed because of what's going on, a bigger thing, the Dylan Rounds situation, right? So I don't know if Justin Rounds will delete his post. He did in the past when he called out Don Hatley. But I think the main reason behind that was because it could harm the case if Don Hatley is directly involved. So action was taken there. But will it happen here when Bob Farrell isn't directly within the case? So it shouldn't harm it. But does it damage Justin Rounds' credibility, or does Justin not care about that because he knows who he is, confident with himself, and he does have his loyal friends and community around him? But looking at it externally from the outside looking in, right? Considering there was a witch hunt on Candice Cooley, right? That's what I'm basing it off, because it has seemed a bit one-sided with time. I want to know, with the recent events, does it change it all completely? Or is it okay for Justin to do what he does, but it's not okay for Candice Cooley to say what she says at times, right? Where exactly can we apply it? Okay, I'm going to give you a quick example. Hopefully people understand. So when Candice Cooley in the past criticised online, on Facebook, text, post, and during interviews too, I think on Doug's No Thanks channel, Candice Cooley called out Lance Kelly, Ty Corbin as crazy guys focused on finding Dylan, disrupting the case, possibly disrupting evidence and harming and contaminating, key findings. They could be responsible for damaging the case. Candice Cooley didn't approve of it. Candice Cooley wanted physical volunteers in general, but on top of that, the specific people pushing on to stop and to respect the case, to respect Dylan. Those two individuals at the time, Lance Kelly, Ty Corbin, ignored it and pushed on because supposedly Justin Rounds approved of it. Did I ever see proof of it? No. But that's supposedly how it was going there. So they carried on pushing. Candice Cooley wasn't happy. And because of Candice Cooley's response, it seemed like a form of resistance. The general public believed that Candice Cooley was trying to push as many people away from trying to find and help find Dylan. So it seemed as counterproductive. It seemed like Candice Cooley was sabotaging the case. She didn't want people looking for Dylan. And people's mentality at the time, the audience, general public, was as much help should be welcomed. If people are willing to go out and search, volunteer, put their life at risk and put in the time and effort, it should be welcomed and appreciated, not turned down. So from what Candice Cooley did, they became suspicious of her, may have lost respect for her, and started a witch hunt against her because it seemed like it was harming the case. Why disrespect and push people away when they're willing to help and to try and make sense of it? Okay, so the general public, more people started to dislike Candice Cooley. More people started to not trust her anymore. Okay. So all these audience members, if they're still here or in the background, what's your thoughts on Justin Rounds now? As for all the Justin Rounds, the ones that bow down to him on YouTube and basically listen to him and supposedly believe what he says or what the third party representative Corey says, but not the other way with Candice Cooley and what she says. Whenever Candice Cooley says anything public or does interviews, no, we're not going to trust her, we're not going to believe her, because there are some contradictions here and there. And Candice Cooley's behaviour at times, you know, it's a bit unnecessary. Well, what about Justin Rounds now? Justin Rounds slandering somebody without real proof. Justin Rounds losing control at times when he makes posts online when it could harm a case or it could push people away. Okay, it might not quite link to Candice Cooley, but it's still behaviour at times which could be considered a bit unnecessary and somewhat harmful in a certain direction, right? If people lost respect and trust for Candice Cooley over time, have those people also lost respect and trust in Justin Rounds because of recent time? And, you know, other people around too that always look at Justin Rounds as, you know, the perfect figure and individual in the case. Does nothing wrong, never has, never will, right? I'm just demonstrating balance, right? Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds deals things differently with time, but both have gone through a form of suffering because of Dylan Rounds going missing and presumed dead with time, and it being dragged on for this long, or the delays within and the trouble outside. It gets messy, tension builds, emotions rise. Sometimes people respond back differently. It just depends how much is going on at a point in time, right? But just asking these questions because I just want to see, are people, the audience, are the general public balanced or one-sided? If people can change quickly with Candice Cooley and lose respect in her, then what about Justin Rounds too? And you might say, well, how can you compare the example of Candice Cooley pushing away the likes of Ty Corbyn, Lance Kelly searching, and comparing that with Justin Rounds calling out Bob Farrell, who maybe at some point has tried helping in some way? That Bob Farrell supposedly donated $1,000 to some school in the name of Dylan Rounds or something, and that wasn't supposedly acknowledged, right? How can you use those two examples? Well, I'm going to explain right now, briefly. It was visualised by general public as Candice Cooley pushing away volunteers, boots on ground, in trying to find Dylan. Justin Rounds' response to Bob Farrell, unfortunately for a misunderstanding which won't help in the matter, but that could be considered as Justin Rounds pushing away Bob Farrell, in the eyes of Justin, pushing away Bob Farrell because he's seen as a problem, when supposedly the real Bob Farrell isn't. But through that misunderstanding in between, the initial act by Justin and response could be seen as a bit unnecessary and lacking in proof and evidence, right? A bit reckless, kind of like Candice Cooley. If Bob Farrell is seen by the general public as a caring individual towards the Dylan Rounds case, supposedly speaking, if Justin Rounds is supposedly disrespecting Bob Farrell, it could also be seen as pushing him away. Bob is here to try and make sense of the case, supposedly. Bob Farrell is here to try and solve the case, supposedly. And if you've got the family members out there pushing these volunteers away, is it healthy on the Dylan Rounds case? I thought if as many people get involved and help, would that be considered a good thing and appreciated? But from Candice Cooley supposedly pushing people away to now Justin Rounds doing the same, what's going on? As I said, I'm trying to use wording as best as I can to form that balance, okay? I'm not defending Justin Rounds, I'm not defending Bob Farrell. For and against arguments, that's all, right? If people, you know, defend Justin Rounds here, but not Candice Cooley in the past, it just seems a bit one-sided, right? Maybe we might need to elaborate in a different video with time, but I just think that this ongoing event and what's recently happened, it'll be interesting to put into perspective as to how the general public react to it. We're not talking about all the labelling, getting offended, let's cancel somebody, blah, 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 but it's like, does your opinion and your outlook change on Justin? People have been quick to say Candice Cooley is a control freak. She can't be trusted. She can cause trouble. She's got a dark past. But then when people look at Justin, everyone says, oh, he's all good, innocent, nice, causes no trouble, doesn't speak much. But when he does speak, he speaks with meaning and he hits the nail on the head. Well, if that's the case, do you still see him that way now? Just let me know your thoughts down below, right? Overall, does this situation harm Dylan's name? Not too much. It depends. With those text messages, what we saw, it is about Dylan. Whether it be Bob Farrell or a fake person, well, a person using a fake account to impersonate Bob, a person is trying to gather information of Dylan Rounds. In a creepy way, it could be considered yes. Is that mainly acting in a creepy way to make it appear like the person being imitated, Bob Farrell, would be deemed and seen as a creepy individual? Maybe that's the motive there. But the motive for a person to supposedly impersonate Bob in the first place, as I said, there must be a deep reason, a deep motive, and a long-term grudge, a long-term aim as well. And who would be a possible suspect there who's got a long-term plan or grudge with the likes of Bob Farrell? And we can get into some names when we look at the comments shortly, okay? So that's the key of this. But besides that, to be asking about Dylan Rounds when other questions could be asked about something completely different, such as the family or just the friend, but to be responding to someone who's supposedly in contact with Dylan or was, and ask personal questions there, was there any motive in actually truly learning about Dylan in some way? Or is it just acting as weird and creepy as possible to then paint a bad picture of Bob? Because depending on who the person that could be responsible, because of the key questions of asking, was Dylan Rounds gay? Did Dylan Rounds like males, right? Seems a bit personal, a bit creepy, but was the side motive behind the person of the Bob Farrell account was trying to learn and gather information and evidence to supposedly prove their obsession with the theory that Dylan Rounds supposedly was gay? Does this tie full circle? Besides painting someone in a negative light in a false way and cause damage there, was it also to try and gather proof and information to prove that Dylan Rounds was supposedly gay? Because we do know that with some time, there was a line of individuals on YouTube that were really obsessed about Dylan Rounds supposedly being gay, right? And we can refer back to it later. But as for the people that were referring back to it, well, Jim Terry was really pushing it, wasn't he? Bob Farrell enabled it on his platform at a time and even pushed it himself, or at least talked about it at least. Black Dove seemed to get involved quite a bit too, but I think that was more relating. Was there anybody else on top of that? I can't quite remember, at least 3 individuals there. Kurt Wadsworth somehow being tied in a little bit. Was Joy Perry as well, with her supposed evidence, which she said she doesn't have it anymore, about a recording of Kurt admitting to it. There's a range of characters, and you would have seen them, right? Take in mind, if you want a bit more context, when I did the video of the list of individuals responsible for pushing the gay theory agenda, right? It did tie in with Bob Farrell, Jim Terry, and some others, which I did highlight, and also referred back to Bob Farrell being subscribed to some channels of younger males, and as well of, suitable age, over 18, just for context there, or supposedly over 18, and as well being subscribed to a LGBT gay channel of topless younger males. That's what Bob Farrell was subscribed to. I'm not quite sure why. Is it fine? Is it okay to be subscribed to that? I guess so. But in terms of the context and possible links to the Dylan Rounds case, the community, and the accusations being thrown about that Dylan was gay, for someone to be associated with some form of gayness or be a part of a possible gay group or in support of it, could it be them projecting themselves onto Dylan or some kind of mirroring going on? Maybe. Some people are saying that people are stuck in the closet. Some people, not me, others were saying that Jim Terry, Bob Farrell are stuck in the closet. That's why Jim Terry likes supposedly bombarding photos here and there of certain bits and bobs of on a male, right? A range of odd things going on, but I'm just pointing it out there as an observation and the possible links with time, right? So to tie back to those text messages, a person under the name of Bob Farrell asking a friend of Dylan whether Dylan's gay or not and liking boys, you know, why do you want to know about that? Is it because you want evidence to then prove your theory that Dylan was gay? And considering we know who talked about Dylan being supposedly gay, you know, does it refer back and reinforce one of those suspects? Bob Farrell, Jim Terry, somebody else, another individual, okay? And I know people can have a go at me right now and say, stop mentioning Bob Farrell's name. Stop referring to the real Bob Farrell as being involved or responsible for these text conversations. But as I said, I'm presenting to you the line of suspects who all share a link or so with the type of messages sent, okay? In terms of the actual language and wording, that's a completely different area, and we will take a look at that later. But in terms of the motive and the actual questions asked, it seemed to be pushing the idea of a individual wanting to know if Dylan was gay or not, and that the people, what we've heard of from YouTube and further afar, Jim Terry, Bob Farrell and some others, they have been the ones to push the idea in the past that, you know, Dylan Rounds was supposedly gay. So maybe one of those wanted more intel and evidence to prove their point for a friend of Dylan Rounds, right? Do you see the idea? It's like a two-way street. Being able to find evidence to, you know, prove that their agenda and theory that Dylan was gay is the truth, but then also appear under a different account, so if it goes wrong or backfires, it doesn't backfire directly onto them, but it backfires onto Bob Farrell if someone is impersonating him, which could mean there is a deeper motive there too. So you've got a possible deep motive, a long-term goal, on top of wanting to find some form of evidence to prove that their agenda about Dylan being gay could be true. So, I'm glad I've covered that there. It puts a bit more context and backstory as to who could be responsible behind the fake Bob Farrell account or the real person being under that account and maybe using memory loss as an excuse. As said, for and against the arguments, I'm trying to provide balance. Hopefully that consistency of understanding from last night translates well to today's video. I will look at the other angles and the other individuals supposedly being suggested and labelled as being responsible. What we will do is get to the YouTube comments shortly. This is still considered an intro to the video, so apologies about that, but just wanted to give you my thoughts from last night, how things went. The chat itself was fairly controlled, you know, some random talk, but nothing disruptive. It was fine. I know Watcher of Crazy highlighted that a person called Just Mike is potentially responsible. Not that he is, but it's Watcher of Crazy's opinion that he could be due to a supposed nature of this type of behaviour being demonstrated in the true crime community in general. I think Watcher said it happened in the Delphi case, whichever one that is. And supposedly it's happened on Bob's channel where a person called Just Mike appeared on Bob's live stream and made weird noises and stuff. Who knows what that is? I've never really heard of the person Just Mike, no clue who they are. At least when it comes to my experiences, when I've been on the receiving end of people impersonating me at a time, it seemed like it could have been more so Salty Pancakes, and that at one point it was proven to be Salty Pancakes. So I've experienced from that angle, right? So when it comes to my genuine thoughts of, if under the basis that it's a fake Bob Farrell account, who's most likely to be responsible for it, I would look in the direction of Salty Pancakes. even if it wasn't 100% true, that's the first place I would look at and maybe question, simply because we've seen it from him in the past. Is it a fair comparison this time when it comes to the language and wording itself in the text messages? We'll get to that eventually, okay? So let me know your thoughts up to now, whether you agree or disagree with the comments made by me. And, if you've got grievances, you can list them down below. But hopefully you shouldn't have any direct grievances here because, balance is being shown, right? So let's look at Bob's initial response. The comment what we're going to look at is actually before my video aired as a live premiere. It was scheduled, the thumbnail, the countdown timer was all up public. Bob Farrell would have seen it directly, or someone told him about it, like a little messenger in the background, as you know, Gabriel the messenger, supposedly. And then Bob would have thought, oh, here we go again, WarLike Wrath, once again, in a negative way. Bob Farrell maybe instantly thinking that it's a negative video personally directed right at him. But obviously it wasn't the case, because I did throw in that I had a sense or feeling that it could well be a fake account, right? So balance once again. But let's just see what Bob had to say initially, and if there's any responses too. And then we need to highlight Salty Pancake's response too, which was completely idiotic, but it'll make more sense shortly. Let's look at Bob's first. So center to screen, Bob Farrell, 21 hours ago, edited to, says, now it's in capital letters, uppercase. I just want to highlight one thing real quick. So supposedly viewers that did support or still support Bob Farrell, in previous videos unrelated to what we're talking about today, said to me, Bob Farrell only types in uppercase because his caps lock is broken. Well, if his caps lock is broken, explain to me why he's able to type in lowercase one day ago and a few times beforehand too, right? So it clearly shows that some of Bob Farrell's audience members and viewers are delusional prats, that when they tell me that I'm wrong about my observations, I think they need to look back at themselves and improve there, because clearly, as you can see, factually and evidentially speaking, Bob Farrell is capable and able to type in lowercase and uppercase. So once again, humans fail with their observational skills. But then again, I shouldn't be too surprised, right? It's a language barrier. Now, referring back to Bob's comment before my video aired, Bob says, and I'll do it in his voice just because of the capital letters, Snooks, no, you're not here? Well, I'll read it myself. I see WarLike Wrath is doing a video of me again. I've never talked to anyone on Facebook. I don't have an account on Facebook since this past July. I had 2 accounts, somewhat made up 2 fake accounts, and still using them 2 accounts. I wish he would stuff to the Facebook FBI. I can't get anywhere with Facebook. No, I can. God damn it. The stream's breaking on me. God damn it, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. So that's just a light-hearted interpretation there, just because of the caps lock. Hopefully people still have a sense of humour till this day. But, wasn't that negative. Understandable. You see previous videos, you think, oh, here we go again. But no, it was different. And Bob didn't really respond back negatively. So I appreciate that in the end. But yeah, the situation Bob's in, messy situation, unable to provide clarity or understanding to the family, because if he did try, if they saw his name immediately, they'll probably just reject and not bother listening. So it's an awkward situation. Comment-wise, have a quick look here. Georgia girl saying, laughing my ass off, it's BS and they know it. They can't even come up with a good lie anymore. So I'm not sure if Georgia girl is referring to a person or people, Jim Tay, Mr. X, or somebody else there. Someone says, you only have haters when you're popular and are doing well in life. Only then you will get here from every angle. Hope it doesn't affect your lifestyle in any way. Sometimes that's true. Other times you can be the most insignificant person in this world, a nobody, and yet you still get targeted and you still get attacked. So it's not always a popularity contest, but sometimes it's a fact that can take place. Rhonda says, Bob, Jim Terry just needs to stop and leave you alone. Jim Terry is so full of hate, it is consuming his life. So Rhonda believes that the fake Bob Farrell account behind it is Jim Terry. A person here called Star says, Bob, they are over on Rumble, I guess Jim Terry, showing some Ring doorbell video of a car trying to spin a narrative of you stalking big ups. It's not cool, just wanted to let you know. So that is unrelated to what we're talking about today. So there's something else going on, no clue. Hotspot, just ignore it. And smile now, cry later. Sexy bitch. Basically says, if I see the accounts, I will report them. So I think that's in response to those on Facebook. Okay. I think there might be one more. There we go. Was there any more lowercase? Bob Farrell responding back to Sleeper Cell's post saying, Bob saying it's unreal. Sleeper Cell saying, damn, that had to sting. Yeah. What else do we have here? One more. Bob says, phone numbers, I have never contacted Justin or any of Dylan's friends. I've made text message to Candice Cooley and she asked me not to contact her anymore. I've never tried again. I really wish that would contact the FBI and have them look into this crap. Almost 2 years of this. I'm tired of it. Facebook sucks. They don't do nothing. So this is interesting because Justin Rounds has said it's gone on for 2 years. Bob Farrell is saying the issue has gone on for 2 years. So it seems like both individuals are on the receiving end of this, and there's somebody in the middle orchestrating it. Right, comment-wise, Kelea saying, I think Justin and Candice Cooley didn't want anything to do with you because you were associated with Jim Terry. Give them time, Bob. They might see you woke up to Jim. One possibility. Some person called Don says, facts, because when Doug split from Jim, she came on his channel. Maybe one day, Bob, we can get her on. So you could say that's a possible fair observation there, because No Thanks in the past supposedly disrespected Dylan Round's name with a custom song, and also sided with Jim Terry in the past when obviously the family didn't approve of Jim Terry or like him. So it's like, if you associate yourselves with a hated individual, then you can become a target yourself to a form of resistance, and people may not want to associate themselves with you. But then if you change up, turn around and pledge allegiance elsewhere, they may rethink there and make a different decision. So could that happen with Bob with time? Maybe. Would the interviews go down well? I don't know. Justice says, I just posted on WarLike Wrath. It wasn't you. I think it's Jim Terry. Seems strange that this happens now as he is after you. So people are saying that these comments or this resistance, these weird messages, which like Justin Rounds presented, some people are saying it's old. It's happened way back in the past. And others, like how I've suggested, it's happened recently because of wishing someone a happy new year, and for Justin Rounds just to post it yesterday, it must be recent, or at least those messages are. Would it be Jim Terry? Does the timing link with Jim Terry having that falling out, that disagreement with Bob Farrell, and then it escalating from there? Yes, possibly. But as I said, and I might see Justice comment on my channel shortly when we look at the comments in general and I respond back. My point was Bob Farrell hated 2 years ago, yes or no? And who by? If he wasn't hated at all, then really who would be impersonating him, right? Maybe we can narrow it down possibly, or it might even highlight that there's multiple people involved, right? We'll get to that shortly. Lambrow says, I thought it was Jim Terry as well. That's the silly stuff he does. Kalela says, facts, they do so much shady stuff behind the scene. They know Bob wouldn't think it's them, and he will blame WarLike Wrath. WarLike Wrath is not an enemy. Right, so Kalea I guess, defending me, I think. Appreciate that. I said, I'm just doing the observations here, documenting as we go along, because you never know. Comments or messages could get deleted post. See? So if you've got something to refer back to, you can look at the receipts, you can look at the evidence, possibly. This person called Loving the Sun. It's pretty odd timing that this account with your name on it is active again. So if it's done in waves, it's waves, moments which translate to when a person no longer likes you or has a falling out with you at a point in time, reoccurring but not every day. It could highlight the infrequency of it, maybe. Smile Now says, Bob, I know it's easier said than done, but I wouldn't worry about it. I hate this is happening to you because I know how you feel about this case. The idea of trying not to worry about it, if it really was the case that you've been falsely labelled as something serious like that, should you feel worried or be somewhat concerned or be somewhat frustrated? You know, you have the right to be, because whether it impacts your channel, and that could get negatively impacted, or your credibility in general, or if it somehow translates to in real life connections with people who know you and then decide to change their opinions because of what's been said online, it can have messy outcomes down the line, depending of, you know, the environment and maybe who you're around too, or how many are around you. I mean, like with me, when Salty Pancakes, you know, gave out false claims about me, and even Kathy and Axel, who's still on Bob Farrell's channel till this day, and, you know, when Kathy and Axel falsely accused me of other stuff, serious things, it's like, well, I'm going to defend myself, because if it escalates, it can get worse, right? You do what you can to defend yourself, and if Bob Farrell needs to do that too, then it would be understandable. Justice says, maybe you can reach out to Kaylee. It's not your profile. I can't even find that profile on Facebook to report it. That's true. This is the last thing you need. So Justice is correct. When trying to search for that Bob Farrell account, it doesn't seem to show up. Two do show up, default profiles. They could be the ones, and maybe the contents and the profile picture was deleted since to cover up, you know, one's trace. You know, whether you see it from the side or angle that it's a stranger out there, a certain character, or Bob, somebody covering up their traces and steps so they don't get tracked back as easily. We got Leanne saying, Bob, another scam to get you all upset, but what they don't know, joke's on them. Someone is in contact with Justin and he knows and has been warned of what's going on. Try again, boys, just like they like to get Johnny all riled up. It backfired. Johnny got a lot of money yesterday. We don't have to pay all that money for the OTT anymore. Why did people pay for it in the first place, though? That's a different question. Right, so Leanne is saying that somebody is in contact with Justin and told Justin the real situation of what's going on. I guess we'll see what happens next, though. Because, you know, it's happened at times where you've had these personal representatives and stuff that are on speaking on behalf of Justin Rounds, and is it always true? Sometimes maybe, other times not. So we just see how things play there. Fumble Nuts saying, facts, I have my suspicions of who it is, but I will keep it to myself until I can prove it. Well, this one person says, reply to Fumble Nuts. It'd be interesting to see what you discover. I'm very curious what triggered this recent activity on this fictitious account. Ooh, advanced wording, interesting. Sad someone would stoop so low to pose as an older person in a protected case. Is it sad? Is it surprising? After everything that's gone on within the Dylan Rounds case and community? I don't think it's any surprise at all. Okay? This case has been a shambles and the community from day one. And even people who may be considered victims now, or on the receiving end of stuff, or innocent in general, they once were an enabler of misinformation too. So let's just highlight that as well to maintain that balance, because let's also acknowledge one other thing to maintain even more balance. There was a time where Corey was leaving comments after comments of the supposed truth on the Dylan Rounds case, and I covered it in my own videos, and I guess I titled it Never Heard Before information or talk on the case, but you know one thing that I made sure to do? I still showed a sign of uncertainty even when I was supposedly being told the truth. I was using specific wording to at least allow her to say what she's got to say, such as Corey, to listen, to present to you, and then we go from there without having to use certain words which other channels do or have done when trying to bend or twist the narrative, right? Such as using the lines, supposedly this happened, from what this individual claims or suggested. It's very important, and not enough people manage to do that. And that's a problem in itself. So yes, internally, the case has been a mess, from Box Elder to how certain information was put out and how it switched and changed, but then also how people responded back in the community too. Some going, I don't know, outside of the box, and then others going completely off the face of this earth with thoughts or reasoning ability. So just want to put that in perspective. MZ, Justin wants nothing to do with you, Bob. And Tingle says, maybe the rounds don't want anything to do with you because your interest in their son is creepy at this point. Response-wise, will it show? Error whilst loading. Well, don't worry, we got it back up. Bob says in capital letters, look, I'm tired of your BS. Also, I see all the shit you say about me. Tingle says, well, good, Bob. I really like you, but you're either becoming unhinged or you were like this all along and we're just seeing it now. The thing I don't get in all this sad shit is you fell out with Jim Terry and now you're teaming up with Jim Terry's haters. It's two-faced, my love. I don't care for two-faced people. So, is Tingle right in what this person says? As an observation, it could be considered. As I've said in general, how people can jump ships, right, through disagreements and agreements and tough and rough times and falling outs, branching away and then forming a new group or pledging allegiance elsewhere. It can happen. How long does it last? Who knows? Differently, it can have lifespans. Bob says, in lowercase, all of a sudden, once again, proof that Bob Farrell's caps lock isn't always broke, says to real Denise Cooley. Who the hell's real Denise Cooley? Is that the real Denise Cooley, or is Bob just randomly responding back to people? Because I don't see that name here. I've heard of Denise Cooley. She showed up in the Dylan Rounds documentary because she's, family member of Dylan Rounds. Is it the aunt or something? Or a grandmother, secondary one? I can't quite remember the exact title, but Bob seems to respond back to it, saying, never going to happen. Tell Justin to call me. Kalila says, fake real Denise Cooley. Come on Bob's panel under your real account and tell us how you really feel. Bob says that will never happen. Leanne saying, tell BJ that tech guy is mean to her. She needs to get a job and get away from him. Take his money and run. She will get alimony, all the money, I don't know, and support and half of his house. Kalele, or is he a man? They argue like a couple of rather than mates. Right, so that's some additional points there. It seems to be slanting towards Jim Terry being responsible. Most of these comments are. We'll see if that translates the same to the comment section on my video shortly. Should we check that real Denise Cooley account out quickly? Because it doesn't seem to show up here. Maybe the comments were deleted and the person backtracked on themselves. Let's just take a quick look. Well, here we are with the Denise Cooley account, supposedly. Well, the real Denise Cooley. I'm not directly referring to the one what we see on screen here, but the name Denise Cooley is a member of the Dylan Rounds family, in case you're wondering, and did appear in the documentary, if you look at it. So it says the tag handle is at real Denise Cooley. Do genuine people use the word real just before their name to highlight that they are the real official account? Sometimes, yeah, and other times it's actually unnatural. It's like someone's really trying to convince others that they are the real person who they say they are, but they're not. I think that's happened elsewhere in the Salty Pancakes community or externally in recent time with maybe someone pretending to be Corey or something. I don't know, it's a mess, right? But the only thing that does make me question, right? Okay, you got the profile picture there in the name of Dylan, Dylan's legacy. That seems somewhat genuine, right? But more so, it's when the account was created, joined the 11th of April 2018, right? Normally, if it's a troll account, it'll be of this year or the year beforehand, okay? And it might have been created within the last 11 days, 7 days. Sometimes people may have an old throwaway account from back in the past, which is very inactive, and they may just use it here and there. But I don't know. The longer account has been around for, the less likely it's going to be a troll account. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that it's always the case, but it just slants more in that direction. Have I come across Denise Cooley before on my channel? I can't remember. But I have seen Denise Cooley on the official Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page. So maybe if people were trying to get to the bottom of it, you would get a screenshot of this, then you would reach out to the real Denise Cooley and say, you know, what's going on here, okay? Is this another messy situation? Is this, if it was a fake account, is it the same person behind the supposed Bob Farrell fake account? See how it can all possibly link together, but also how messy it can get to with certain individuals. Just wanted to present this to you in case you were interested there. So besides Bob Farrell's response claiming innocence to it and that it's someone impersonating him, and the audience believing in it, and more so believing that Jim Terry is the one responsible behind the fake account. Besides that, Salty Pancakes has kind of got involved too in the matter. Briefly, made a post online in response to me. I guess it was an attempt in an insulting way, but it fell flat on its face real quick, just like how one's face would be submerged in loosened pond for too long. A little bit bloated there, but that's another story. Refer back to that in a second. Salty Pancakes briefly showed up in the live premiere last night at the very beginning, or during the countdown of the live premiere. Just messing about, that was all, and then disappeared quickly. May have been still lurking in the background, like with many other people out there. But yeah, it was just interesting that Salty Pancakes got involved all of a sudden, right? Why is Salty Pancakes taking an interest to this right now? Is it because it links to Bob directly, or somehow Pancakes is involved in the matter in the background and he just wanted to check how things were going, like a chess game, observing it? How's it all playing out? How is the experiment going? Etc. Different points like that. Because certain themes, talking points can bring in certain crowds or characters of people. It's trying to understand why they've taken an interest. For the right reasons, for dodgy reasons. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts down below. But before we go any further to see the additional comments of what people think about Bob's situation, let's just highlight right now what Salty Pancakes had to say in response to me for last night's video. So this was a public post on Salty Pancakes' Facebook page 14 hours ago. The caption basically stating, "Seems like nobody cares about WarLike Wrath anymore." And it was just basically capturing a screenshot of my thumbnail, the video, and the amount of views it received. And where it's highlighted in yellow, my video received 28 views within the first hour or so. And when Pancakes saw that, he seemed and deemed it as a failure. Considering that I'm supposedly getting views with other videos here and there, to see that, it seems like WarLike Wrath has failed. That WarLike Wrath is no longer popular. That WarLike Wrath's views have plummeted down to the ground. Well, this is the thing. When it comes to YouTube, and it seems like a new change with updates, is that you don't get the true number of views immediately anymore. It seems to take longer to calculate in the background by YouTube themselves. That's why you might have a video, 30 to 40 people are actively watching, yet once the video is ended, it only says about 10 to 20 views. What about the other 10 to 20 then? Where are they at? I guess it might be YouTube calculating it in the background. It does catch up in the end. So Salty Pancakes, you're saying that no one cares about WarLike Wrath. You're using the crying, laughing emoji, and the other one saying, "Ooh, what's going on here?" Well, let me respond back right now. So when you look at my video now, okay, you see the title, Justin Round's Unexpected Response to Bob Farrell, 15 hours ago, after the live premiere, 440 views. Well, that's obviously different to what you were claiming, 28, okay? Of course, it's relevancy of when the screenshot was taken at the time. So a day after or so, people were on catch-up replay of my video, and that's what happened. Over 400 people watched it. Now, if we want to get very specific, Salty Pancakes, with analytics, because I know you really get turned on by analytics, just like how Dale does. Oh my God, when I see Dale with his owl pattern pants, it really turns me on because I don't even know my own size underwear. It's still a mystery to this day. My God, I'm really excited. Well, this might bring things back down to reality. So in terms of the video performance of that video, the first 15 hours and 55 minutes, kind of linking on to this, maybe 55 minutes later, a total of 461 views and counting, ranked by views 1 of 10, meaning it's the best performing one in recent time. But the most important part is the average view duration being 13 minutes 28 seconds on average by all that were present watching and after, but also the impression click-through rate. So it gives a percentage of, you know, the ones that are willing to click on the video. They see it in the impressions, they see it as a suggested video or a prompted one by YouTube, then it's their decision, the viewer, whether they click on the video or not. And because of the theme and more so the thumbnail, okay, using a certain format and layout there, experimental, it's led to an increase in the click-through rate. So overall, my video performance on this one, which you claim is a complete failure, is actually doing well statistically and is on the green, on the up, right? Because it was done appropriately. It was a long format video, which YouTube seems to acknowledge nowadays with the certain patterns and trends. And as well, the wording, the tags, the handles, the lot, it was under control, okay? Now, in terms of the YouTube search terms when finding my video, 10% who came across my video was searching for Dylan Rounds. 29% when my video was mainly all about Bob Farrell and even mentioned in the title, only 29% of people searched Bob Farrell's name when finding the video. But the majority, or almost the majority, well, half of the population that watched the video, let's use it like that, 50% of people that came across my video, wherever they come from, different communities and platforms, 50% of people that watched the video about Bob Farrell directly typed in the search term my name first, and then that's what came up with the video. So that's interesting. I mean, if Pancakes wants to describe it as a popularity contest that no one cares about WarLike Wrath anymore, well, it seems like half of the people that watched the video about Bob Farrell, 50% of people were searching for my name before Bob Farrell's and even Dylan Rounds. And to be honest, Dylan Rounds' name is more important than my name is for sure. Yet more people went searching for me. So take that into mind, Pancakes. And as for the content suggestions, some random video to do with earthquakes, 3.3% were recommended the suggested video of mine, but 6.7%, the higher portion, was titled Let's Talk Crap. That was Bob Farrell's live stream response video last night. So after Bob Farrell's live stream video, my video was recommended to his viewers, right? So there you go. Now, Pancakes, if you want more analytics, because I really know you like your analytics, you know, just like Fiverr and just like the very good idea, man. Or now it's a good day. Would you like to hire me, Salty Pancakes? Or I do a very good job. Some people say I'm very creepy, but you know, I'm just a hungry man that likes his Bobby Toms and his curry in a hurry. My goodness gracious me, you're such a bloody little bastard. You need to listen to me when I try to talk. I'm the key latest man and I will hire you for 500 Hopefully you understood that, and if you didn't, it'll translate to what we see on screen right now. So, as of recent time, as I said, speaking of, not from now, but a few days beforehand, back then, 7 days ago, 103,000 views in 7 days. An all-time personal best on this channel, which is a positive. but also appreciated with the people that do come along and watch my videos. So in 7 days, I gained 103,000 views. And in addition to that, in terms of the month of December, so basically September to November, September, October, November, I was averaging 220,000 plus views per month. But in December, I got 200 and nearly 80,000 views. So nearly 280,000 people have watched my channel. On to the comments of my video from last night. Newest. Let's see what people have had to say. Does it tie in line with the consistency of what people have been saying on Bob Farrell's channel? So I just simply said, I was simply documenting reactions, responses of others from the point of view of Justin Rounds at the time. And as for today's video, it's looking at from the point of view of the general public that look up to Bob and look up elsewhere as to what they think, right? And I did clearly say that I wouldn't be surprised if there was fake accounts involved just with what's happened previously. Now, June leaves a comment here. I think what June is trying to get at here is the understanding that with what Bob Farrell is going through right now, you should understand, Wrath, because you went through it yourself. And that's said without looking at her comment. Let's just see what June says. I remember someone used your name, profile picture of you. It was in a live premiere or live stream of Lance Kelly's Earthworm Infotainment's channel was doing. A few of us called him out since he did not speak as those of us who go on your channel knew you to speak. But those who never knew you took him at his word. He was WarLike Wrath. Does that make sense? Yes. So the reason why I demonstrated balance last night, June, based on the comment like what you said, my own experience. So I could understand Bob Farrell being in a sticky situation and trying to figure out where to turn to next and how to explain your points. It does come down to maybe the position you're in, right place, right time, with the right people around to be able to get the message out so you can clear it up. With Bob Farrell, it's supposedly going on for 2 years. It's going to be harder to try and prove one's innocence, right? And you got other limiting factors as well in the background that can make it harder. But the key thing is, June, which separates me from Bob Farrell and separates me from others out there. Whilst yes, my experience was equally just as messy, it seemed like maybe people responded back to the BS quicker and understood that it wasn't actually me. Because I'm very specific in how I conduct myself and how I, do my approaches and my advanced vocabulary at times and specific language. It can't be replicated even if people try to. Just like how I am the man who can be the master of impressions. At the end of the day, I can go from, Danielle's channel to Lincoln Kane's, just like how I can go from my voice of Mr. X, the hottest free agent from the OTT platform, straight into a Jim Terry voice, American honey. You said that you would only listen and understand if my BS was much higher in pitch and voice. You want me to scream out, American honey? You don't even know what you're talking about. You really don't want to mess with me, man, because I'm going to cause a lot of trouble and drama. You got it wrong, American honey. You need to rethink your evaluation of your life. Just like a profile picture, man. You got a hair growing all in the face. Absolutely disappointing and disgusting. Almost as bad as me and my actions, but I don't really care, American honey. You want to come in on me right now? What, you're crazy? I'm fucking sick and tired of you and your mess and bullshit, Betty Hayward. I'm done.
Alright, just like that. And, I'm losing disconnection just like I'm losing my conscious mind right now. What the hell's going on, man? God damn.
You can't be serious, right? My name's Betty Hayward. Or what? No. Wasn't me. No. You can't be serious. No. Hey guys, it's me, just Robbie, once again, sharing my tutorial on how to have such amazing hair on the go. My name's Robbie, doing all kinds of packages and drop-offs, more than Pizza Parker does with his delivery service. I am the real Robbie and the real Spider-Man. You need to get with it real soon.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Watch You're Crazy. I'm goddamn South individual, man. You got a problem with me? Just my opinion, just saying.
Well, if you're just saying, it's just like me, Balvy. You got no clue. Whoa, once again, I sound real rough. Not as rough as...
Hello, this is Gorilla Jack. Yes, I bet you didn't know, but I was still around. Yes, Gorilla Jack is still looking in the bushes. along with many other things in the bananas. Yes.
See, that's the thing, June, how one can transform oneself like that on the spot. And, you know,
You really know what it's called about transforming on spots and all kinds of conspiracies. I really think it's really, really advanced.
so, yes, there's other voices as well, but I could only do so much in one go. But the initial point, serious note to state right now, okay, is that at the times when people did fall for the fake account and impersonation of me, yes, they did come on over to my channel and they did have a go at me, okay? Was it in great length? Not really. But I'll tell you one thing which separates me from all is that when I did respond back to all these people, and it wasn't that many, but those that did reach out, I just simply said, hi there, sorry to hear you had that experience. Unfortunately, there seems to be a fake account going around in my name to cause trouble. Once again, unfortunate about your experience. And basically, every time, 100% success rate in which when I told them the situation, they believed me and it was sorted and dealt with, right? It might also tie back in with how they heard me respond back to what they had to say. It was much more formal than what they initially heard from the fake account. So they clearly identified on the spot that what they saw can't be what I'm saying right now. Two different people because of how I conduct myself. So if you're in a situation where maybe you're not as distinguishable or you don't stand out from the rest in a way, you could be considered more generic, right? It might be easier for people to impersonate and copy you and be realistic at the same time, right? But if you've got something unique about yourself which people can't, imitate, then it might be easier to spread the truth when dealing with the fake accounts and the messy situations, right? So all in all, credit to the people that did defend me on all the different platforms or YouTube channels out there when I was doing my own thing, because I didn't really have the time to be going about everywhere to say, that's not me, and stuff. But viewers, ex-viewers and outsiders did that for me, so that's appreciated. So that's all good. And that's the thing, if you're in a situation where maybe you've got more people, more eyes who know you or so, they can spread the word if they choose to. Whereas if you're a smaller channel, at times it can be harder to spread that awareness. So yes, there is a place and time for everything. And at times there are limiting factors which can make the situation difficult. But in general, I can understand that, you go through situations of impersonation accounts, it can be messy to deal with. But then at the end of the day, you got to understand what's warranted that response in the first place. Is it because you've pissed off somebody or you're siding with someone that they're pissed off with, so then you become a target too? And once again, that separates me from everyone else because I don't pledge allegiance, right? I don't join these cell groups or these sub-cell groups, these subdivisions. I'm doing my own thing, my own channel, my own coverage, right? And looking at comments along the way. So that's one less factor in my situation, which could have caused someone to impersonate me. And as I said, from the looks of it, it could have been salty pancakes because it was replicated in the future when a backup channel of WarLike Wrath was created, called WarLike Wrath Backup Channel. I didn't have one at that point, right? So, and some people with time proved it and suggested it, pointed it out, Kaylee, etc. So, it's one of those things. Let's just move on quick because there is a few comments to get through. Rachel saying, yes, believe me, family is involved. It's in the history and the people who know the people. Connect the dots. So what Rachel Meyer, or Mirror, saying here is that the person behind the Bob Farrell fake account is actually a family member doing it themselves. So supposedly Justin Rounds, what? Justin Rounds doesn't know, but a family member of the Rounds or Coolies is doing it in the background to cause all kinds of confusion. Or are you saying, Rachel, that Justin Rounds is in on it, and so is the fake profile behind Bob Farrell, and they're both trying to paint a bad picture on Bob? If that was the case, Rachel, why would family members be so concerned about Bob Farrell when they should be more focused on their son trying to find Dylan? And with them getting busy with the Missing in America network, the raising the money and the searching boots on ground. I just don't think that's the case, right? If someone is behind the fake account and it's not Bob, it's probably going to be someone that's not directly within the case, but has been a part of the community with time. Do you know, like how, sometimes you can get attacked by someone? Maybe it's more likely to do with someone who knows you or once did and has been falling out, disagreements with time. Justice says, that's not Bob. Bet it's Jim Terry. Jim is after Bob right now. And my initial point was, maybe. But Justin Brown said it's been going on for over 2 years. Did Jim Terry hate Bob Farrell back then? If not, who was impersonating Bob back then, right? Does it mean it's not just Jim Terry supposedly imitating Bob, it's somebody else as well? What? Salty pancakes, right? It all depends how much of a hated figure you are within a community, right? If all the eyes are on you and you're the most targeted individual, you're probably going to get it from all angles and all sides, right? So the more you put yourself out there, the more you appear unfavourable and unpopular with opinions and maybe hated too. You got to consider more than one person who could be after you, right? We got CFL Corey, supposedly the real Corey, saying, or Jim. Right, so basically Corey is trying to speak in code without getting in trouble. I believe that Corey is saying it's either Salty Pancakes or Jim Terry, or the person who sent out BS about me, defamation and impersonation, both a crime, bottom line. Right, so Corey, who are you referring to when you say, or it could be the person that was spreading BS about you? Who's that mystery person? Elaborate down below, Corey, or speak in code if you need to. Now, we know Corey is now typing in capital letters. So that might be because Corey has been around Bob Farrell for a bit too long. As we see it, it's probably contagious, okay? So if anyone else types in capital letters, you might have got a cold from Bob Farrell, okay? Nothing personal, it's just light-hearted talk, that. But I probably should have talked in a high-pitched voice when it's in capital letters, but I don't know how Corey sounds, Sam. There you go. Justice says it's not even the profile picture of what? That profile picture of Bob Farrell isn't him? It looked like him, at least. That profile picture could have been stolen from Bob Farrell's genuine account at some point. I mean, the person that appeared in the photo, with the what do you call it? The wobbly neck, the glasses, the confused look. It did appear to be Bob Farrell, but more so in the past. Just an observation, that's all. We got Gage saying, Bob accused me of being responsible behind it, and I didn't even know who he was 2 years ago. Bob only came to my attention when he started to let Jim Terry on his panel and slander me. He's not going to make me his scapegoat. I know Gage Chan also said that if Bob Farrell was truly responsible behind it, he's obviously not going to acknowledge it's him. He's going to play it off as the victim, the innocent one. That's just understanding it and highlighting what Gage has said himself, okay? So Inspector Gadget says, Jim Terry, possibility. Okay, fair enough. Justice says, doesn't match Bob's profile picture. Well, what does match Bob's profile picture then? Because I thought Bob Farrell doesn't have a Facebook account, or at least he had one back then, but he doesn't have one now. So what was Bob's original Facebook profile as? Because, people can change it with time. Let me know there. Pam says, thank you for the updates. Keep on doing what you're doing. Happy blessed new year. Appreciate that. Shout out to Pam for sticking around. That's all good. And the same to you too. We got Glenn. Shout out to Glenn. Pam says, sounds like this would be Jim Terry's doing. Doesn't sound like what Bob Farrell would do. On the other hand, Jim Terry would do something stupid to get reactions from everyone, right? But this is the thing. If Jim Terry was behind it and responsible, doing it for reactions so he benefits, it's not just him who benefits. Other people can benefit in between, right? In other ways. So this is the thing what people need to understand, right? Just in general, okay? It can apply elsewhere in life and other communities with time. Whilst you might get someone intentionally causing drama or stirring drama because they know they can benefit from it and the reactions, sometimes those that are responding back, whether it be them defending themselves or other reasons, frustrated or not, they might be benefiting as well. So it's like with the Kenny Veach case, and this is just being honest, even if people reached out to me with BS stories and lies, but they covered it up real well and made it seem believable, and I was seen to look like an idiot at the end of it because I fell for the lies. That's just an example, okay? Am I the idiot in the room? Or are they the idiot? They think they've benefited, but really they've given someone else free content, new ideas, right? Of course, the most important part is if you do get deceived or lied to, you make sure you clear it up afterwards and set the record straight. Don't just leave it open-ended, because that just is just as bad as the person initiating the BS to begin with, right? But yes, you can listen to stuff. You could be deceived. You may believe in it in a genuine, innocent way, but at least clear it up at the end of it so, people know what's what, at least. But still, the initial point by a person doing it for their own gain, other people can gain in the process, which they're probably not aware of. So they're not the ultimate winner. There are other winners too, okay? I mean, even with Bob Farrell, even if his name gets dragged through the mud right now, whilst it's seen as negative, you could say Bob Farrell is winning because his name keeps getting brought up and is in people's subconscious minds. When they say, any form of publicity is good, even if it's bad. Bad can be good can be bad, but if your name's mentioned, you're still out there and still known of, so it can help with awareness. As I said, there's many different outlooks of looking at it. It might sound negative, but it's just being realistic. Cleo, you're welcome. June says, Jim Terry deals with law enforcement. Do you think he would run the risk of harassment online? Betty Hayward says, are you joking? I guess Betty Hayward is saying that, of course, Jim Terry would do that regardless. Lambro says, yes, he would absolutely do something like this. He thinks he is above everyone, including the law. Jean says, okay, I just assumed someone in his position would not risk being charged with a crime. I don't know much about him. Even 58 Iceberg responds to Betty Hayward saying, agreed. Really? Right. Princess 76 says, that's all Jim Terry does is harass people. I would do some research on him. June says, thanks, I'll do that. Princess, I would for sure. Just understand, Princess, while Jim Terry might harass people, Salty Pancakes has done similar things as well. Okay? Let's maintain a balance. Lambro says, this does not sound like Bob. Not how he writes. However, it does sound like Jim Terry and trying to portray it being Bob. Jim Terry has done this kind of thing in the past. You ask about the earlier stuff and if Jim Terry would do it when he was not mad at Bob. Absolutely, yes. He has no allegiance to anyone. Right, you ask about the earlier stuff. If Jim Terry would do it when he was not mad at Bob. Right, so you're basically saying he would do it at any time. That's what Jim Terry would do. No limits, no boundaries. Okay, fair enough. June says, Justin Rounds asked if he was a child molester, didn't accuse, and it seems he meant the harassment in general by people's has been going on for 2 years, not just by Bob Farrell, but that's how I took it. Right? Yeah, this thing, it might not be literally meant, but it's still a label and it can follow you in your life for the wrong reasons and maybe drag you down. So, and I wouldn't say Justin Rounds provided enough proof for that label, even though it might have been loosely said, and yes, Justin Rounds may have been going through something at the time, I get that as well. It's just a messy situation. It can catch up later. Christy says, money, money, money. Smooth Fishing says, Candice Cooley makes me mad when she talks about working so hard, bringing Dylan home when she had the opportunity to bring him home and didn't do it. I didn't see how any parent could leave their son out there all this time knowing she could have had him home already. Response-wise, Trudy says, why are you blaming Candice Cooley and not the whole family? Do you think the decision was hers alone? That's a fair question. I mean, if it's just down to the parents, Justin Rounds was on the same mindset as Candice Cooley, so if Candice Cooley's going to get blamed for being stubborn, Justin Rounds should as well. Just maintain that balance. Kind of like with the theme of earlier on in this video. Rhonda says, Bob doesn't write like this or talk like this. Read many of his posts. He doesn't write that fluent and misspells words often. Fair observation. Rhonda says, Jim Terry is the only one who made an ordeal of Dylan possibly being gay. Yeah. Bob never cared if Dylan was gay or not. Somebody is setting Bob up. Is there a way to trace the messages where they came from? Well, that's the thing, Rhonda. Whilst maybe Jim Terry could have orchestrated the idea of Dylan being gay, Bob Farrell was the enabler of spreading that message on his channel and allowing it, right? And there was times where Bob made references to Dylan being gay. Maybe it wasn't all in, but there was references and it was talked about. So I do remember Rhonda. I might have a mind like an elephant at times. It just happens, okay? What's the person? It was Tim Jerry. Right. Where's Tom at? Okay. So we've seen the comments there. It seems like the overwhelming majority believe and accuse Jim Terry being responsible of this. Now, let's just take a further look at some newer comments from the Facebook page of Justin's post to see what some others have had to say. Right, so here we are on screen once again. I said there were some comments that were posted more recently compared to when I did my video yesterday, so we can at least acknowledge them. And as you see the caption there, you know, to re-jog people's memory as what Bob Farrell was supposedly labelled as, you get it right. Question mark was used after Justin Round's suggestion, so maybe it's not as bad, you know, let's just at least acknowledge the wording and language, okay? It's still probably not the best thing to say, but I think when you put it into perspective, Salty Pancakes was calling WarLike Wrath a trafficker. Justin Rounds is saying, is Bob Farrell some kind of, you know, child molester? With a question mark. Not saying that he is, but it comes off as if he is based off these comments. And, you know, the text messages may be fake profile, not Bob, but a misunderstanding. First time impressions, what Justin gets from it isn't looking good towards Bob, right? So maybe, probably shouldn't have been said, the label, but how it was constructed and worded is not saying that Bob Farrell is that, but suggesting he could be. So, I don't know, maybe it's getting there with the language, right? You see things differently from day to day, or one minute you see it this way, fully negative. Next time you look, it might not be as bad as it sounds, right? That's just the balance taken in mind. So, I think we saw most of these, didn't we? Yeah, been going on for 2 years. Keeps going on and on. Why would anyone do that? We'll just check. Good intentions. Old man contacting younger guy. Caught off guard. Right, seen that. Wednesday, creepy. 10 minutes of fame. What's wrong with people? As a parent, I contact, report him. Dirty bugger. Back it up. What the hell? Right, so this one, Donna Hawkins, 23 hours ago, saying, I wonder if this is the nut job with a fake Facebook account. Maybe FBI can investigate this predator. So Donna is calling, you know, Bob Farrell, the real or fake one, in the mindset of Donna. Donna is just calling Bob Farrell a predator here. So Justin Rounds used a question mark and was hinting at it. Donna is going straight in the deep end. Now, I don't know if it will allow me, if I click on it, there we go. So this is a screenshot which Donna has got a hold of. The interesting thing is, when I tried searching Bob Farrell's name, the profile didn't come up. So how did Donna get a hold of it? Unless it's like a screenshot from what? No, because the post by Justin Rounds didn't show this screenshot exactly. So does this account still exist on Facebook right now? Yes or no? Because I can't seem to find it, but Donna could. We'll look at it anyway. Known as Bob Farrell, says, I'm a retired law enforcement officer from Pompton Lakes. Works at Pompton Lakes Police. Went to Pompton Lakes High School. Lives in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, from Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. But it says works at Pompton Lakes Police. But supposedly, Bob is retired. He may have once worked there, but retired now. So why do you have it in the details as working at a place when you're retired? So maybe that's the odd little slip up in which someone's trying to imitate Bob Farrell. Just a suggestion, right? Because I think there might have been details where you could say where you previously worked at, no longer. So, but this is claiming that he is there now. And that was yesterday at 16:13. So maybe the account is still up on Facebook, but can't seem to see it. 23 hours ago it was posted, so maybe since then and my video coverage on it, someone might have covered their tracks in between. It has happened before, unrelated, but it's happened, where if I've covered some coverage on Salty Pancakes, he's ended up deleting his comments afterwards, and that's a new trend nowadays. So, he's tried catching on there. And when it came to Bob Farrell and his subscription list with, some of the subscriptions, Bob Farrell set that to private too. So people do seem to react when I do my coverage on stuff. That's why it's important to document things before they do disappear. Donna's got a photo there of supposedly Bob Farrell. I mean, is that Bob Farrell? Does it look like Bob Farrell? And I'm not talking about the person on the right, the person on the left. Looks like Bob, but an older photo, right? Donna also has another screenshot here. This was posted October 19th, 2023. An actual post by Bob Farrell on the account saying, Dylan Round's landlord and a key witness in Dylan's case, Corey LeBur, exclusive interview. Hashtag Candice Cooley. Hashtag Justin Rounds. Hashtag Corey. Now, it says youtube.com, Corey interview next Thursday, 9 p.m. EST. That was a time where Bob Farrell, the real Bob Farrell on YouTube, was saying how he had a scheduled live stream call-in interview with Corey at the time, talking about the supposed truth of Dylan's case. But supposedly it never happened. Jim Terry wondered why Bob Farrell went quiet and wondered if Bob Farrell has been brainwashed by Corey, and it got all messy there, and that's when things started detaching away from one another. Does anyone remember that time? So it seems like Bob Farrell, or the fake Bob Farrell, is advertising that upcoming interview in October time, posted the 19th, 2023. So it's in the past, but it's not that old, in a way. Anything else? Bob Farrell shared a video from the playlist Crime Con 2023, October 4th, one and only Candice Cooley, showing support in a positive way. So it appears that this account, Bob Farrell, was active in October time of 2023. Advertising Corey. Does that mean anything to anyone? Advertising Corey here or not? Let me know your thoughts. Clear that away. Donna says, gosh, Justin Rounds, I can't imagine all you're going through. And then all the nut jobs, you have a strong support that truly care about Dylan, gets justice. And then we've got Candace Howard, another individual here, 23 hours ago, saying predos everywhere. So, but you know what Candace Howard is getting at here. She's included the R within the word just to avoid getting in trouble, or if Facebook censor people for using inappropriate words, basically pedophiles. That's what Candice Howard is saying here. Okay, that does pedophiles everywhere. Does that apply in the Dylan Rounds case and community? Who knows? It could apply in general in the true crime community. I do know one thing for sure: true crime seems to attract ex-criminals, right? Candice Howard says, looks like old Jim Terry, all caps crap. So Candice Howard doesn't believe Bob Farrell is responsible behind this account. Candice Howard believes Jim Terry is responsible. And so far up to now, the overwhelming majority have blamed Jim Terry for being responsible. Okay? We got Jazz Gulson saying, I have dozens of messages from Bob as well. He was buddies with the Terry brothers, but claims parted ways. McKinney saying, I as well understand this. Bob Farrell is a freak, wants and desperate to speak to Dylan's parents. He's a crazy old man, no ethics for sure. Bob Farrell, a really weird old man. So Jazz Gulson, okay, the key admin of the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, the leader, has been messaged by this Bob account. And it also says he was buddies with the Terry brothers, but claims they parted ways. So Jazz Gulson is aware that the real Bob Farrell, at least, has parted ways from Jim Terry and Mr. X. the brothers. So there's awareness there. You know, when people were saying on the what was it, Bob's channel comment saying, well, you know, when other people down the line find out that Bob Farrell has parted ways from this person and that person, things may change. Well, it looks like it's not happening here because there's still suspicion and, you know, worry or concern. Jody saying, report him. Shauna, infuriating. So sorry, Justin Rounds. So many weirdos these days. Dessa Bailey, with a horse profile picture, says, hey, Justin Rounds, tagging him. For your information, this account was hacked and the man is not in control of his account. He has tried to get it back and Facebook will not respond. There are actually 2 fake accounts in this man's name. I have no idea who it is that has done this, but I promise you it is a fake. One person has liked the comment from the looks of it. Can we see who liked the comment? McKinney's Place. McKinney has liked Dessa's comment. Crime Lines says insanity. Is there any other likes further on up? Candice Howard liked the comment. Gage Chan. Okay. It's, as I said, this is all public, okay? Everything here is public. People that leave comments, people that like comments, people that show agreement or disagreement. It's all public information, right? Just saying, because some people do get misunderstood at times. McKinney says he's a demented old man who's obsessed with your late son, Dylan sick. Wait, so McKinney left a comment 11 hours ago. Dessa left a comment 20 hours ago, and McKinney liked the comment. So I'd assume that Kinney liked Dessa's comment after Kinney left this response here, saying that Bob is a demented old man. Oh, that would be a sign of two-faced behaviour. Agreeing with what Dessa says, that it's not Bob, the real Bob, and he's innocent, and then McKinney saying he's demented anyway. That would be two-faced. And last but not least, a person called Kel Matthews, 4 hours ago. Not the real Bob on YouTube. This is Jim Terry or Mark Terry. They are creating fake accounts. I can inbox you what these Terry cons are doing now. Bob has woke up. So it appears that Kel Matthews has some intel on Jim Terry, Mark Terry in the background, and is willing to give it to people privately. So, you know, I just wanted to read these comments out so you can see them, because there have been some updates, if you want to call it that, since additional responses. So all in all, as I said, overwhelming majority believe Jim Terry is responsible behind this, and maybe even Mr. X as well on the sidelines. Do I agree with it? Well, I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if something like that does happen. But I need to try and break it down and explain it to you, okay? And this is just me being honest. I said, the first thought that comes to my mind when it comes to who's responsible behind this, or who could be, would be Salty Pancakes. But that might be more so driven by the fact that I've had dodgy experiences and been on the receiving end of Salty Pancakes creating impersonation accounts of me, and then denying it down the line, doubling down on his points of innocence when there was evidence to prove that he was responsible, okay? Salty Pancakes isn't exactly an innocent individual. He's played up at times, he's impersonated me, he's created fake accounts, or the odd fake account, right? So Salty Pancakes, you could consider, is just as capable as the people that blame Jim Terry for being responsible too. Okay? Because I've seen it with my own eyes from my experience. It wouldn't surprise me if Salty Pancakes is responsible. Now, for all the other people that say Jim Terry is supposedly the one responsible, besides the motives, has Jim Terry been known to create false accounts, fake accounts beforehand? From the looks of it, yes. Have I been on the receiving end of it? Not from what I'm aware of, unless it was done, but I just never saw evidence of it, okay? So my following question to that is, all the people that believe Jim Terry is responsible and capable of doing it, have any of you, the audience, had an impersonation account of yourself, somebody else pretending to be you in a negative way, and it turned out to be Jim Terry? Has anyone been through that before? What I want to know, feel free to open up down below in the comment section. I welcome all your comments, right? Whichever community you have been in. No thanks, Tyler Feller, Earthworm Infotainment, Ty Corbin's, Jim Terry's community, Mr. X's, or Salty Pancakes. If any of you have been on the receiving end of impersonation accounts being set up pretending to be you, and you found out who was responsible, and there was some form of proof as well, let me know your experiences and stories down below. Because what I want to see is, where do the majority lie? If the majority of people have had a fake account and it turned out that Jim Terry was responsible and there was proof of it too, then you could say, well, the average medium is Jim Terry is the one to do that stuff. So in this circumstance with Bob Farrell, it could be the same exact outcome as it was with everybody else. But if it isn't, and it's more so Salty Pancakes, well, then it could point in a different direction. I just want to establish a certain pattern or trend, if there is any to begin with. As said, I'm basing my observations from my own experience. My own experiences and observations isn't enough to cover everybody else right now, because it could be considered too one-sided and too biased, okay? I'm only basing it off from what I can understand and perceive from stuff, from being on the receiving end from a certain way. Obviously, the best outcome would have been if I was on the receiving end of a fake impersonation account from both Salty Pancakes and Jim Terry, right? So then I could understand it all around. But at this moment in time, I can't do that because I've not experienced it from the other side, the dark side, okay? It might have happened, but I've just not been aware of it. Now, you know, on a sideline, if there's anybody that has seen fake accounts of me in the past and Jim Terry was responsible, feel free to explain down below and let me know what I don't know, okay? Because I just want to see what the overall outcome is. You can treat it like a poll, but it's an open-ended one in the comment section. So I do advise everybody watching right now and those in the background, share your experiences down below and explain so we can get a better understanding of this overall situation, okay? If Bob Farrell wants to leave comments as well, he can if he wishes to. But as I said, this video is just looking at it from all angles, perspectives, for and against arguments to establish some kind of better understanding. I said, someone like Watcher Crazy has mentioned some third-party individuals, further ones out there, unsuspected ones. I mean, who else has been mentioned? I mean, Jim Terry, when Jim Terry responded back to this recent talk, right? I think Jim Terry got influenced by my video coverage. Because I was the first one, at least on YouTube, to publicly highlight and analyze it. God, I'm using that word. Analyze it, not analyze. Watch her crazy. What's going on? But you get what I'm saying. Because I was the first one to cover this and analyze it and go in deep, not to be taken out of context. I think it's influenced and been a catalyst with others like Jim Terry, who then covered it on BJ's channel or something, right? So the only interesting thing you could highlight is Jim Terry's response to seeing those text messages of that Bob Farrell account. Even Jim Terry said he doesn't believe that's Bob Farrell. It has to be somebody else because the language does not match Bob Farrell's vocabulary. Just like how some of the viewers have said the same thing. Would that be considered a positive, that if Jim Terry is supporting and defending Bob Farrell despite the ongoing feud, what's going on in the background? Some people could say, well, yeah, that's good. Out of everything that's going on, even when people are at each other's throats, they can still defend one another when the time is right. That's a positive. But then other people could come on in and say, well, it's just a strategical move. You know, if you are responsible behind it, obviously you're not going to admit to doing it. Instead, you're either going to defend your own innocence or somebody else's who's caught up in it to make yourself appear as a better human, right? Despite everything else is going on. So, if you separate the two, right? When it comes to the language of the text messages, something like bruh or bro, oh my God, how's this going? I mean, look at the Shack Lady. Jim Terry said the Shack Lady could be responsible for this. Do I think so? Not really. But in terms of that unexpected language, just take this into consideration, okay? For all the people that say at least the language doesn't match Bob Farrell's, language and how he responds. Well, was it normal of Bob Farrell to say F you to Jim Terry and Mr. X, to just say, get lost, get out? Is that what Bob Farrell normally would do? No, because originally Bob Farrell was a slave to Jim Terry, Mr. X, and then eventually decided to part ways and then literally get rid of him, which was maybe unexpected for some people, and some people were shocked and saying, good, stand up for yourself and, you don't need him, whatever. See, sudden changes can happen with language, actions, and decisions. You can become a slave and be a slave for quite some time and then suddenly break away unexpectedly. Just like how you can use certain patterns and forms of language communication and then one day you decide to change it up and say different stuff, and it's not the norm, but you can break away from it. So just take that into mind. And some form of proof of that is like the Shack Lady. The Shack Lady, as we know, writes memoirs and autobiographies about her experiences and wealth and depth of knowledge. She's been in every role and position in life out there. She's even been to the moon and back, and she's even gone up Uranus too. That might be why she talks so much shit at times. That's just a joke, being light-hearted there, okay? But with the Shack Lady, okay, there's been times of language which has changed up. While she may type somewhat formally, or she might be a bit slow in understanding just because of injuries from the past, she does type a lot. But then there are those moments, and it's not often, where she's suddenly changing it up and she's like, oh my God, are you mad, bro? And it's like, the Shack Lady saying, are you mad, bro? What's going on there? That's a different pace and tone of language used, right? It's just out of nowhere. Is it how Shack Lady normally would respond to people? Not really. She would talk in more in-depth ways, even if it is sounding a bit exaggerated or drawn out. She wouldn't be saying that type of millennial-like degen type language, but that's what she did at times, and it was unexpected. So you could apply that to Bob Farrell, right? Bob Farrell talks in a certain way, types in a certain way, but then could change it up at a different point in time. On top of that, the further suggestion that at the start of this video or earlier on, when people in the past, audience members from this channel or more so from Bob Farrell's community, told me I was wrong, that Bob Farrell doesn't type in lowercase, he only types in higher uppercase, capital letters on, because his caps lock is broken and that's all he ever does. Well, newsflash, bitch, okay? Look at what we saw today. Bob Farrell typing in lowercase, thus meaning the audience of Bob Farrell can be a bit delusional from time to time, lack reasoning ability, lack observational skills, and, are a bit egocentric, right? You see? And there was proof of it. So you want your little proof, you want your proofs, your analysis, your receipts, 9 days of the week. Well, you have presented them today. So it just highlights another possibility that patterns, routines can break away and change, can seem unexpected, can seem unnatural, can be hard to understand at first and know that, oh, it's the same person. They've gone for a different look visually, appearance-wise, or even how they actually talk. Changes can be made with time. Unexpected U-turns can be made. Shack Lady with random language being used which you normally wouldn't use. Bob Farrell normally typing in capital letters but then suddenly change it up to lowercase. What's going on? Just like how the Facebook Messenger could be typing in a certain way. Those words would never be used by that person. Are you sure? Just a suggestion, okay? Who else would use that wording and language? Salty Pancakes, Jim Terry, I'd say it's one of the two. Bro and all of that could be seen more used by Jim Terry because he may have used it before already. But then the other talk where it could sound a bit erratic or more of a conspiracy type of conversation would be falling more on Salty Pancakes, but that wasn't quite demonstrated here. As I said, separate language from the timing and possible motive of it, right? If you split it down the middle, you can get two different results. Don't worry just observing. I'm not performing deliverance right now. You're safe. But on the right-hand side, you've got language used, which may not match Bob Farrell, but it may match Jim Terry or Salty Pancakes. Who does it fall more on? So there, let me know. On the left, you got the motive and timing of it all happening. Which direction does that lean in more? I would say, from my opinion, in terms of specifically speaking about the timing and moment of it, it would lean more towards the Jim Terry situation because of that ongoing grievances and grudge and falling out and everything imploding on itself when people have parted ways and communities have been, ripped apart and people have gone in a certain direction. The others have gone in a different direction. Jim Tay, Mr. X can't stand Bob. Bob can't stand those two, and back and forth, and trouble going on in the background and other external trouble too, right? Messy situation. And all that falling out seems to coincide with the timing of Bob Farrell being caught up in this issue with Justin Rounds, in which there is a fake account, right? So the timing of it, the coincidence, someone impersonating Bob to make him look bad, to make him suffer, doing it in different ways possible, tying in line with the motive of somebody can't stand Bob right now, and that could be Jim Terry because of that disagreement and falling out. But then for Jim Terry in his own video, in BJ's video, to say that, no, that's not Bob, to defend him, that could be considered a good action, but then that could be a strategical maneuver to play it off cool and to appear in favour, appear as the good one. Just like how when you might get a killer, serial killer that takes somebody out and then afterwards ends up assisting and helping the police to an extent, appearing helpful, concerned and caring, close to the case, but not too close and not too distant to appear suspicious, right? You get what I'm saying? The only thing that makes me question, though, is the timing of it. With Justin Rounds saying for over 2 years, are you saying that Jim Terry has been impersonating Bob Farrell for over 2 years too? Or could you argue and say Jim Terry has supposedly impersonated Bob Farrell in recent time because of the falling out to get back at Bob, but in terms of 2 years ago or 1 year ago, Salty Pancakes played a role too because he's capable of it as well. As of recent time, some of Salty Pancakes' responses externally elsewhere in response to Jim Terry or Mr. X, Salty Pancakes has said he's impressed with what they've done or what they've posted about when talking about people. And as Badger Life and some others have said with time, that supposedly Jim Tay, Salty Pancakes are together as one or have been in the past and been working in the background with the fake drama, the false trouble, but then teaming up together to cause external trouble elsewhere in more serious ways. So there's a great level of depth and possibility behind it all. If we put timing away and refer back to the language, if I looked at that language itself, right, what came to my mind immediately? Did it come to my mind by it was Salty Pancakes type in or Jim Terry? I think the one thing that might have eliminated the possibility of it being Pancakes was the questions. The questions being, is Dylan Rounds gay? Does he like males? That's something Jim Terry has said in the past and has questioned and then tried reinforcing and then tried pushing. If Jim Terry was the original first one to orchestrate the theory and concept that Dylan was gay, just like how it was at the very start, which then partially triggered the parents in firing Jim Terry as a private investigator, and now or whenever someone pretending to be Bob Farrell to try and get the latest scoop and evidence to prove that Dylan's gay to support their own original theory that they constructed to begin with, it would seem more likely to fall on Jim Terry there. So for different actions or characteristics, it can apply to different people. It doesn't all fall onto one, okay? Understand that. The language, more so the questions behind the text, lean towards Jim Terry being responsible, okay? The timing of how it happened seems to lean towards Jim Terry. But in terms of who's capable of messing about and being silly at times and trying to change it up, well, from personal experience, Salty Pancakes is capable there. In terms of the timing of when Salty Pancakes showed up all of a sudden, why does it concern him, as we saw earlier? So has something triggered a response from Pancakes just because of what's been covered now? Getting closer to the truth, Pancakes somewhat involved, shows up, timing, coincidence. You get what I'm saying? Or, as some have said in the background, could be someone completely different out there, unexpected, or not as well known of. Will we get to the bottom of it ultimately? In the meantime, probably not. But these videos can spread awareness in some direction and open possible new discussions, right? And maybe it could lead to further answers. But as I said, if there was any updates or additional points that need to be made, I'd make sure to do that, and that's what I've done here, right? So my conclusion to this up to now is there are certain characteristics which lean more towards one person over the other, but it doesn't directly rule one person out, okay? So let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know your experiences down below. We'll go from there. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.